Aloha! Welcome back to another fun-filled and informative video book review by me, John Lee, the Content Marketing King. And today, I'm really excited to talk to you about a book called The Confidence Game by Marie Konnikova. I'm sure that I butchered that. I apologize. But she's a really, really sharp lady. She's a former science reporter who now is a professional poker player. And as of day 4 here, which is very difficult to do, she's still in the money in the World Series of Poker in 2018. So she's now a very successful pro poker player. And she wrote a book about that I'd like to read as well. Really interesting writer. She's a really good writer. She's a science writer, so she writes about psychology and the psychology both of the con man and the mark. And it's a really fascinating read. If you know anything about me, you know that I am fascinated by cons and scams because I come from a gypsy carnival family where my parents have run low-level scams and grifts, from fake psychics like Sylvia Brown, mentioned in the book, to lottery number scams, which are actually the pigeon drop, also mentioned in here, and the wallet drop. The drop is a very common gypsy grift from my childhood. But it was very fascinating to learn the actual, and I've learned them before, but to see the psychology behind things like the put up, the play, the blow off, all of which were explained to me as a child in different terms. Like, for example, I was a roper when, as a 5 or 6-year-old child, I would dance around on the carnival grounds in order to get people to come pay attention to me, at which point pickpockets and my dad with the drops and my mom with the fake psychic stuff would come in, and various other scammers on the carnival. But roping is different in the actual parlance of cons, and I really like how she goes through everything from the put-up to the blow-off, where you have to get rid of everyone and sometimes fake your own death. So very cool stuff, goes through a lot of historical crimes from the Ponzi scheme to Sylvia Brown and kind of everything in between, as well as a really interesting art scam. I find art scams really fascinating. There's a book called Forger or something like that, Counterfeiter, which is about this master art thief, or master art counterfeiter. Really good book as well. So I highly recommend this book, but let's get to my 3 big takeaways. So the first one, takeaway number 1, was I really enjoyed the alpha and omega split in terms of persuasion, because a lot of the stuff I was taught is more kind of active persuasion in the Robert Cialdini influence mix. I used to call it active frame control, because you're actively trying to control the frame of the conversation or the underlying meaning behind it. And omega was kind of passive frame control. But I like the idea of alpha tactics being ones that kind of try to actively persuade, and omega tactics being ones that kind of subtly dissuade any objections. And both of those are important for any type of selling or persuading. The second thing I thought was really interesting, and this is something that I've always known, is how much the air of superiority and our own kind of Dunning-Kruger belief that we are smarter, less likely to be conned, and more deserving of these good things and windfalls actually plays into the con, both legally and illegally, right? When it happens to someone else, it's too good to be true. But when it happens to us, well, we just deserve these things, or you make your own luck, or any of these other justifications, because we want to believe that we're special, and we want to believe that good things can happen to us and that we deserve this stuff. And that is really the essence of every con, from the wallet drop through to my third takeaway, which is that in today's world, we kind of have legal scams. Like, I talked a little bit about how I think that a lot of venture capitalists and angel investing is kind of a legal scam. It's a transfer of wealth from investors to the people who may or may not actually have what they say they have. Very similar to the box store, right? I think that's a clear one-to-one comparison. Maybe their intention isn't so manipulative and exploitative, but you're still trying to get money and you hope maybe you make something happen. But I think also, even in the self-help world, which I have worked in a lot, there's a lot to overlay and look at the commonalities between the con and these transformative coaching programs and stuff like that, because a lot of it's the same. It's the put off, it's the blow off, it's the play, it's the roping in, it's the playing into your desire, it's the showing one good result right away to kind of convince you, the convincer. And I think a lot of times these legal scams have just kind of been regulated into a way where they're impossible to regulate. If you look at some of the stuff the Salty Droid's done, if you look at some of the complaints that people have about Tony Robbins and his hidden billing programs and his infomercials that have been running 24 hours a day my entire life, you'll see that a lot of these scam elements have just been legalized through regulation and through disclosure, but you're still scamming people. And to me that's kind of interesting, because obviously you have the internet scams and the elderly scams where people are calling you and saying, hey, your student loans are due, which is funny because I don't have student loans and I get those calls. Same thing with the taxes. I'm like, really? Because I have an accountant and I am on a tax payment plan, so I'm pretty sure they would tell me about that and wouldn't call me, but here we go. And then you have the legalized scams, and to me the legalized scams are much more around. I'm looking for a word that starts with a P and I can't remember it, but they're everywhere, right? They're the supplement industry, where none of those supplements work, and if they do, it's because they're putting something in there that's illegal. It's the learn how to make money online. It's the learn how to blog and make $100 grand a year. Like all of these things, you're selling a dream that might as well be tonics or a box that can create a $50,000 note, right? That's the famous Al Capone scam with the guy who had the box, and then he gave Al Capone back the 50 grand, and Al Capone gave him 5 grand just for being quote unquote honest. That's in the book as well, and that's a famous con story. But all of these things are kind of just legalized scams, and they play on that air of superiority that we want to be special. We believe that we can be a millionaire, that we deserve to be famous, that we deserve to have it all. And if you're honest with yourself, you're really not that special. Base rates are base rates, but it's that belief that keeps the con game alive. Anyway, I would give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It is a little dense psychologically, which I love, but I know some of you don't, so that's the thing that kept it from getting 5 stars. But highly, highly recommend it if you're interested in psychology, if you're interested in marketing, if you're interested in scams and tricks and flim-flams. You will love The Confidence Game by Marie Konnikova. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share this video, leave a comment, and let me know what you think about scams, tricks, and flim-flams. And I will be back to give you another video book review very soon.